Everyone has a bandaged place. That wound you don't talk about. The pain you try to forget. The broken part of yourself you keep hidden. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding these places. But Rumi taught something revolutionary. These wounds aren't obstacles to overcome. They're sacred openings where divine light enters your soul. The question is, are you brave enough to keep looking? In the Masnavi, Rumi presents one of the most profound teachings about spiritual healing ever recorded. He writes, "Don't turn your head. Keep looking at the bandaged place. That's where the light enters you. And don't believe for a moment that you're healing yourself." These words challenge everything our culture teaches us about dealing with pain, trauma, and the broken places in our hearts. Most people, when they experience deep wounds, do exactly what Rumi warns against. They turn their heads. They look away. They distract themselves with work, relationships, substances, or endless activities. They cover the wound with spiritual bandages, thinking that if they just think positively enough, meditate enough, or affirm enough, the pain will disappear. But Rumi discovered something that transforms the entire approach to healing. The bandaged place that Rumi speaks of isn't just physical injury. In the context of the Masnavi, he's referring to the places where life has broken us open, where love has disappointed us, where trust has been shattered, where dreams have been crushed, where we faced our own limitations and mortality. These are the places that most spiritual traditions tell us to transcend, overcome, or rise above, but Rumi teaches the opposite. He says to keep looking at these places because they serve a divine purpose. They are not accidents, mistakes, or signs that something has gone wrong with your spiritual journey. They are precisely where divine light is trying to enter your consciousness. The wound creates an opening that wouldn't exist otherwise. In the Masnavi, Rumi explains this through the metaphor of a teacher's surgery. He writes about trusting your wound to a teacher's surgery, allowing the divine physician to work on the wounded place. But here's what makes this teaching so challenging. The healing doesn't happen by avoiding the wound or trying to make it go away quickly. It happens by maintaining your attention on the very place that hurts. This goes against every instinct we have. When something hurts, we naturally want to turn away, to find relief, to make the pain stop. But Rumi discovered that this turning away is what actually prevents the healing that's trying to happen. The light he speaks of is divine wisdom, divine love, divine presence, but it can only enter through the openings that wounds create. Rumi understood that our intact, unbroken places often become closed to divine influence. When everything is going well, when we feel strong and complete, when our ego is satisfied, there's no opening for something greater to enter. It's like trying to fill a container that's already full. But when life breaks us open, when our defenses are down, when our usual strategies aren't working, then divine light has a way. In the Masnavi, Rumi describes how flies collect on a wound. These flies represent our self-protecting feelings, our love for what we think is ours, our resistance to letting anyone else, including the divine, touch our pain. We become very protective of our wounds, insisting that no one else can understand, that we have to handle this ourselves, that we need to stay strong and independent. But Rumi teaches that this self-protection actually prevents the healing that wants to happen. He says to let a teacher wave away these flies and put a proper healing covering on the wound. The teacher he refers to is divine wisdom, divine love, the healing intelligence that knows how to work with wounded places in ways our limited understanding cannot. The instruction to keep looking at the bandaged place is not about becoming obsessed with pain or staying stuck in victim consciousness. Rumi is pointing to a quality of attention that's both gentle and unflinching. It's the ability to stay present with difficult experiences without either pushing them away or drowning in them. This quality of attention transforms the wound from something that diminishes us into something that enlarges us. When we can look at our broken places with the kind of loving awareness that Rumi describes, something miraculous happens. The pain itself becomes a teacher. The wound becomes a doorway. The place that seemed like our greatest weakness becomes the source of our deepest wisdom. Rumi emphasizes that we shouldn't believe for a moment that we're healing ourselves. This is crucial to understanding his teaching. The ego loves to take credit for healing, to feel like it has fixed itself, to maintain the illusion of control and self-sufficiency. But Rumi teaches that true healing happens through us, not by us. We provide the opening through our willingness to look, but the light that enters is divine, not personal. This doesn't make us passive in the healing process. In the Masnavi, Rumi describes the active cooperation required, the willingness to trust, to stay present, to allow the divine physician to work. But it's a different kind of activity than our usual trying to fix ourselves. It's more like the activity of a flower that opens to receive sunlight. The light that Rumi speaks of brings more than just healing. It brings understanding, compassion, and wisdom that couldn't be gained any other way. People who have deeply engaged with their wounds in the way Rumi describes often develop a quality of presence that can hold space for others' pain. They become wounded healers, able to guide others through dark places because they've learned to find light there. In the Masnavi, Rumi reveals that this process often happens in layers. Just when we think a wound has healed, life might open it again, deeper this time. Instead of seeing this as failure or regression, Rumi teaches us to see it as an invitation to receive even more light. Each reopening allows divine presence to penetrate more deeply into our being. The practical application of Rumi's teaching involves developing a new relationship with difficulty. Instead of immediately trying to fix, change, or escape painful experiences, we learn to pause and ask, what is this wound trying to teach me? What light is trying to enter through this opening? How can I stay present with this experience without being overwhelmed by it? This doesn't mean we don't take practical steps to address problems or seek appropriate help. Rumi isn't advocating for unnecessary suffering or neglecting real needs. But he is pointing to an approach that honors the spiritual dimension of our wounds, that recognizes them as sacred spaces where transformation happens. The bandaged place that Rumi refers to might be a betrayal that shattered your trust, a loss that broke your heart, a failure that humbled your pride, or an illness that confronted you with mortality. Whatever form it takes, Rumi teaches that this place holds sacred potential. It's where your shell cracks open to let in more sky. In the deeper passages of the Masnavi, Rumi explains that divine love often uses what appears to be harsh treatment to accomplish this opening. Life's difficulties aren't punishments or mistakes. They're love in disguise, working to free us from the limited identity that keeps us separate from our true nature. The courage to keep looking at the bandaged place develops gradually. Rumi doesn't expect us to suddenly become fearless in the face of pain. But each time we choose to stay present with difficulty, rather than turning away, we strengthen our capacity to receive the light that's trying to enter. This practice transforms not just our relationship with our own wounds, but our relationship with suffering in general. When we've learned to find light in our own dark places, we naturally develop compassion for others who are struggling. We stop seeing pain as something that shouldn't happen and start seeing it as part of the curriculum of being human. Rumi's teaching about the bandaged place offers hope in the midst of despair. It suggests that no experience is wasted, that even our most difficult moments serve a purpose in our spiritual development. The places where we've been most broken become the places where we're most open to divine influence. The light that enters through wounds isn't just personal healing, it's wisdom that serves the whole. In the Masnavi, Rumi describes how those who've been deeply wounded and healed become sources of light for others. Their presence carries a quality of compassion and understanding that can only come from having been broken open and filled with divine light. This is why Rumi says not to turn your head away from the bandaged place. Not because the wound itself is what matters, but because it's the doorway through which something infinitely precious is trying to enter. The wound is temporary, but the light it allows in becomes a permanent part of who you are. When you truly understand Rumi's teaching, you begin to see that your wounds aren't obstacles to your spiritual growth. They're integral to it. They're not signs that something has gone wrong. They're evidence that life is working to open you to greater love, wisdom, and compassion. The bandaged place becomes sacred ground, deserving of the same reverence you would give to any holy site, because that's what it is, a place where heaven touches earth, where divine light enters human consciousness, where the impossible healing that Rumi knew becomes possible for you.